Okay, we're still on 4.1, writing equations of lines in slope-intercept form. Now we're given 2 points. So on number 13, we're given the point 0, -4 and 8, 4. There's a couple of ways that you can figure out how to write the equation. One is purely algebraically without graphing it. And that's the first way that I'm going to go over. So then the second way would be to graph it. Okay. So we still need to figure out what the slope is. That's not given in this case. And what the y-intercept is. It actually is given. You just need to be somewhat observant to figure out what the y-intercept is. But here's what we can do. We could find the slope. So the slope is unknown. Maybe you write down the slope, the y-intercept right now. The slope is unknown. The y-intercept, I'm going to leave that blank right now. But to figure out or to calculate the slope without graphing it, you could use the equation or the formula for slope. So going all the way back to chapter 3, the equation or formula for slope is m, which is the slope, is y sub 2 minus y sub 1, that's the rise, over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, that's the run. So I could label each of the points x sub 1, y sub 1, and then x sub 2, y sub 2. If you're wondering which point to label which, just take whatever the first point is and label that one x sub 1, y sub 1, and then the second point, label it x sub 2, y sub 2. Okay, so now we can calculate the slope. I'm going to bleed over to problem 14, but it's still problem 13. Okay, so y sub 2 is 4 minus y sub 1. So 4 minus -4. You have to remember that subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. So 4 plus 4. And then on the bottom, or in the denominator, x sub 2 is 8 minus x sub 1 is 0. And then you do the math from there. 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 minus 0 is 8. 8 over 8. Always make sure you simplify a fraction. 1 or 1 over 1. So that's the slope. We're kind of halfway home. That's one of the two things that we need. And then the y-intercept. If you look at this point that's given, 0, -4, that's on the y-axis. I know I'm not graphing the 2 points to figure out the slope and y-intercept, but 0, -4, 1, 2, 3, 4 is right here. That's on the y-axis. If the x-coordinate is 0, which it is here, then the point has to be on the y-axis. So that has to be the y-intercept. 8, 4, that would be up here in the first quadrant. My line would go through those 2 points, but the y-intercept is kind of, I would say, indirectly given. It doesn't say the y-intercept specifically is -4, but you can conclude that the y-intercept is -4. So the slope we just found is 1. The y-intercept was somewhat indirectly given, -4. So I could write the equation y equals 1x, or just x minus 4 is what the equation should be. Okay, so the other example that I'm going to go over is number 18. So we're still given 2 points. Still need to figure out the slope and the y-intercept. Maybe some of you already are taking a look at the problem and go, oh, okay, I already know what the y-intercept is. If you do, great. I'll calculate that in a bit. The slope is not given directly, though. You can always find the slope between 2 points using what we used on the last example, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. I'll mention this now. We're going to keep coming back to this equation, basically all of algebra. Okay, and you'll use it next year as well, and probably the year after in your other math classes. But you can label each of the points x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2. Now we plug the numbers into the formula. -5 is y sub 2 minus y sub 1, so minus 3, over x sub 2, 2 minus x sub 1, 0. Now you can do the math. -5 minus 3 in the numerator is -8. And then the denominator, 2 minus 0 is 2. -8 divided by 2 is -4, or -4 over 1. And then like the last example, number 13, if you can remember that. It was just a minute ago. This point right here, 0, 3, the x-coordinate is 0. This has to be on the y-axis, so the y-intercept, or b, is +3. We have the y-intercept. We just found the slope, so the equation can be written as y equals -4x plus 3. That's your equation in slope-intercept form.